Okay guys, welcome to another episode of Badass Media Production. This will actually be the final episode of Season 4. So in this episode I'm going to be looking at the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and I'm going to be looking at the Amazing Spider-Man 2 films. And I'm going to be just looking at scenes that seem similar, and I'm just going to be looking at the direction style of both Sam Raimi and of course Marc Webb. And I'm just going to be comparing these scenes and the impact and the different styles of direction they went for both scenes. So these scenes aren't going to be exactly shot for shot the same. They have the same ideas, and that's what I'm going to be looking at. The choices they've made for the scene in terms of the writing and the direction. So the first one I'm going to be looking at is the birth of Spider-Man and how we see Peter Parker become Spider-Man for the first time. So of course I'm going to be starting off with the first Spider-Man film released way back in 2002. Okay, so from the get-go we see that Peter Parker is left kind of pale and weak as soon as we see him before he transforms into, of course, Spider-Man. And it's almost like a sickness. His body is rejecting the bite at first, and it almost feels believable. It feels like his body is going into shock, and this is a common case if your body encounters a bite, it goes into shock. And we see that Peter Parker is genuinely scared. The images are kind of haunting, almost giving a kind of a horror experience, and this is just incredibly well done. And then of course we see Peter Parker waking up, and we see him transformed, and we do actually see a physical change to Peter Parker, which makes it very interesting. His newfound improved eyesight, which makes it very unique. A massive body transformation from how he was in the previous night to how he is now also makes for a very interesting visual comparison. Now I'm going to look at how we've seen the birth of Peter Parker to Spider-Man in The Amazing Spider-Man. Okay, so we see Peter Parker riding on the subway, and he's kind of passed out, but not in the same sense as we've seen him in the original Spider-Man. He just seems like he's tired or hungover. It just doesn't seem, as the impact isn't there. And we see this douchebag here think, oh, I'm just going to leave a bottle in this guy's head because that's completely normal. And it's just not cool. It's just weird writing. It's a weird scene, and all of a sudden we see Peter Parker jumping on the top of the roof. It's really rushed transformation compared to how we've seen it in the original Spider-Man. What we get after this is this weird kind of humorous kind of fight scene, which is kind of not exactly funny and more kind of cheesy rather than, genuinely funny. We kind of see Peter Parker as an asshole too, as he's all of a sudden, hey, I'm just gonna fight these guys, but he's doing it as an accident for some reason, which is so weird. I mean, the writing in the scene it's so weird. I can't really describe the decisions they made in the scene. It just doesn't exactly feel right. I mean, sure, the scene shows off Peter Parker's strength instantly, but it just doesn't quite work. Okay, so another scene I'm going to have to look at is, of course, the death of Uncle Ben, seen in both the original Spider-Man and, of course, the Amazing Spider-Man. And I'm going to be looking at, of course, the original death of Uncle Ben in the first film. Okay, so as we all know, Peter Parker tried to be a professional wrestler in order to make big money to buy a cartoon press MJ. So he gets screwed over, even though he bet, Bonesaw. So he genuinely does feel disappointed and betrayed by this douchebag who thinks, here, I'll give you $200 for beating a guy. So you can kind of understand what going on in Peter Parker's head mindset. So when the guy finally gets kind of robbed, you don't really care for this guy because he screwed over Peter Parker. So we see Peter Parker, we see that this guy's getting robbed. Peter Parker sees this and he thinks to himself, should I stop this guy? Well, this guy screwed me over. So he lets him go, not knowing the fate that would happen later on.
What the hell's the matter with you? Let him go! Cut him off the lobby! You could have taken that guy apart. Now he's going to get away with my money. I missed the part, but that's my problem.
And this just shows you the fate that Peter Parker kind of left himself into. Not knowing the kind of the idea of choice and fate. So we later see the fate of what happened, the outcome of letting this guy go. So we get this wonderful sense of Peter Parker not knowing what's going on, but the sense of discovery, wanting to know what happens at first. And then he soon discovers the worst case scenario. In fact, that this crowd is actually looking at Uncle Ben. What's interesting, we see a lot of pain in Uncle Ben's face, but we generally see that there's a sense of disappointment, that Uncle Ben is feeling genuinely sad, and he's tearing up because he feels that he's not going to be able to see Peter Parker grow up to the man he always knew he'd be. And seeing, Uncle Ben being killed off screen, it makes for such a powerful impact. A lot of people, they say a lot of horrible things about Tobey Maguire's performance, but I feel he really nailed the scene. He really shows the genuine sorrow that he feels for losing essentially his father figure, and it's just a really well directed scene. Okay, let's look at the Amazing Spider-Man, their version of the death of Uncle Ben. Okay, so we learned that Peter Parker had an argument with his uncle, and he kind of storms out of the house, and Uncle Ben is good enough to actually try to find him, and he's trying to find him, and we see Peter kind of just hanging around town and just being Peter Parker. So the scene is kind of weird. He decides to buy chocolate milk and, be a dick in general.
Leave a penny. You can't take a penny. What? You can leave a penny anytime. You have to spend $10.
Weird kind of setup. It's weird writing the idea of, Spider-Man, Peter Parker not having enough money to pay for milk, and we get this weird kind of, decision of fate. So, rather than Peter Parker choosing to, not stop this guy because, of being screwed over cash-wise, he literally doesn't stop this guy because he threw him some chocolate milk, which is really lame. Really dick move, Peter. So all of a sudden Uncle Ben, who decides to stupidly just get himself involved here, stares at a gun for a while, because why not? What was he gonna do? Really, you're an old guy, we're just gonna get shot. Just seeing Uncle Ben get shot in the most stupid way possible really dampens the scene. Not seeing him being killed in the original film made for a better scene. So all of a sudden we see Peter Parker slowly walk up towards Uncle Ben, because he's in no rush, it's just his uncle. So Uncle Ben instantly killed. It makes for maybe a more realistic scene, but not having that kind of spinal kind of impact between Peter Parker and Uncle Ben that we've seen in the original movie, it doesn't have the same impact as we've seen in the first movie. Okay, so my My next scene, I'm going to be looking at the transformation, the kind of birth of the Green Goblin. Now, of course, the Green Goblin is different in both The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and, of course, in Spider-Man. Now, in Spider-Man, of course, it's Norman Osborn, and, of course, in The Amazing Spider-Man, it's Harry Osborn. So we're just going to be looking at the transformation scenes between the two franchises. Okay, of course, I'm going to be starting off with the Spider-Man. From the beginning of the scene, we get this sense of absolute desperation from Norman Osborn. He knows, he has a genuine belief in the serum that he's inventing, but he himself knows that he cannot afford, the outcome. He needs to explore now. He needs to do human experimenting on himself.
We'll be dead. Sometimes you gotta do things yourself. Get me the chloroperazine.
For what?
It begins catalyzation when the vapor hits the bloodstream.
40,000 years of evolution and we barely even tapped the vastness of human potential.
This whole scene, the idea of just seeing Norman Osborn clamping himself in, it makes show you how determined he is to explore, to evolve and develop. The company is his life work. He could die doing this experiment, but yet he chooses to do this anyway. It just shows you what type of character Norman Osborn is. He can be quite ruthless as a character. And once again, I feel that this film, it kind of explores kind of a realistic way in which your body would handle this. And once again, it's a foreign body that's kind of attacking your body, and seeing how Norman Osborn reacts to it is incredibly interesting. It feels kind of like a realistic reaction towards this outcome. So we see a visual indication of what's happening to his body, but what makes it more interesting that we see Norman Osborn actually going into epileptic fits, and this just feels normal. It feels like something believable, and William Dafoe really acts out the scene in just a perfect way. And of course, the constant idea of his death brings upon the birth of the Green Goblin. And once again, Sam Raimi really brings up his horror background with this fantastic and wonderful jump scare. One of the best moments of the film. It's such a subtle transformation that doesn't require prosthetics. It's a transformation scene that is done purely by acting alone. Okay, so let's look at the transformation of the Green Goblin in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Okay, so from what we got in the very beginning of the scene, we see this very dark kind of scene. It's very dark lit, just to show that it's sinister atmosphere. It's kind of a little over the top in that sense. And we kind of see this kind of desperation that Harry Osborn has for this kind of spider venom, because he believes it will save his life from a disease that killed Norman Osborn in his 60s. So here we go. The whole scene itself, it doesn't have that build-up that the original film had. This is just a simple case of a needle into an arm compared to a chamber of gas. It's a completely different contrast. Here we go. Even the way the needle is injected, it doesn't have the same impact. It just feels very kind of brief and doesn't feel like something that feels deadly, and it feels dangerous. Okay, so here we are in a typical kind of transformation scene. Scratches kind of a very much a near werewolf type transformation, which is pretty interesting. You get the sense of green veins going through his body, and of course the scene turns to even darker lit. So we don't fully see kind of a grasp of how the transformation is affecting him. We get quick cuts here and there, rapid cuts, which is kind of common for modern filming, but we don't really see a good kind of perfect shot of the transformation, and it just lacks the impact that the original film had, considering we didn't actually see a physical transformation, but yet the Amazing Spider-Man franchise decided to go for a physical transformation, but lacks the impact that the original film done with such subtlety. Okay guys, that's just me talking about 3 scenes in the Spider-Man movies, the original Sam Raimi trilogy, and of course the Amazing franchise. How do you feel about these 3 scenes in both franchises? Put it down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and I will be coming back for season 5.